Chapter 16. Dr. Young came through an entrance to the institution in a bright mood with a newspaper tucked under his right arm and a coffee in his left hand. He smiled and greeted Nancy.
Morning, Nancy. How are you today?
Nancy smiled and replied,
Good. Thanks, Dr. Young. Oh, and David is waiting for you already. He's right outside your office, okay?
Dr. Young replied.
Thanks, Nance.
William awoke in his bed and broke the day with his first thought. No dreams. Maybe that medication does work. William looked at the time on his watch and noticed he had about 5 minutes before his talk with Dr. Young, so he went to go see what the guys were doing. William peeked through David's room and noticed he wasn't there. He also noticed that the room was all neat and clean, with a broken watch carefully set straight along the edge of the nightstand to the left of the bed. William smiled, as he knew that this was the look of a room that belonged to someone who was ready to go. William then strolled over to Rugger's room and found Ruggs and Little Mike sitting and looking at a deck of cards. William just stood at the doorway and overheard Ruggs.
Leaving? Leaving us? Asshole, helped us out. Now what? Just sit here and...
Little Mike smiled.
All right, Ruggs. Let's go eat. I'm hungry. Oh, and get Nurse Beth to give me a little extra syrup like you always do.
William smiled and then left the room before they did, unnoticed. Little Mike and Ruggs left shortly after and headed to the cafeteria. Part 4. A Speck of Light. It started with a speck of light. Then, like a network of neurons firing to life as one awakens into the new morning, the one uncompressed speck of singularity was liberated. What was once a speck of hardened light then became a motion which poured out like a waterfall spirit. It then appeared as a cold breath. Like blood rushing through dry veins, it materialized into a glowing faint view of the ocean. All was in black and white. William Iris looked down at his intensely clenched fist and loosened his grip. He exhaled a breath that felt as if it had been held for an eternity. Along with this exhale, the unmistakable sound of the ocean trickled into his mind, washing away the now distinguishable state of fear that William had just been in before he opened his eyes in this new world. William wondered why he had this fear for only a moment. Yet he could not recollect. The sound of the tide whispering comfort washed the fear away. The grey and silver water peacefully glistened and sparkled within the abundance of sunlight. William felt a chill come over him as he looked out into the vast sea. As the chill grew, he turned away towards something that induced his curiosity to come alive. There was something in the sand not too far down the shoreline. William squinted to see better, but the object just glared too much from the sun's reflection. This caused curiosity to even more fill him up. Like the bottom of an hourglass that was too wide at the bottleneck, William began approaching the object. He noticed every single step in the sand, as if it were the only sound on the entire beach, or in the entire world. William then slowed as he began to feel a throbbing pain on his head. The curiosity that once was had melted and was replaced by that tiring and all too familiar fear. Panic set in. William's heart started to race. Screams faded in, memories of screams. To whom they belonged, William could not, for the life of him, remember. Then one, a completely unknown man's voice hurled over the distant screams. The yell was long and drawn out. It sounded as if it was shouted from 1,000 miles away in a vast cave formed of solid glass and filled with dense fog. William turned behind his current direction to see where the yell had come from. He saw a figure walking down the shore toward himself. The figure was not running, but seemed to be moving in a steady and quick pace. It was a man who was yelling for sure. But who? William had never seen this part of the dream before. He usually woke from the screams. William then noticed the screams were gone. He felt no aggression from this man, but he sensed the man was a courier who held information of the utmost importance. William headed in the man's direction, and the sun seemed to get brighter. Color began to pulse into the sky as the haze from the dream seemed to lift. Clarity poured over William. He felt much less in a dream, but he knew better than that now, due to his abundance of experience in these matters. The distance closed as the man's face came into focus. A man who had a scar on one of his eyes. A familiar scar. Where was that scar from? William tried to remember, but could not. The man's voice was clear and extremely present.
William, I know you're scared. I know you're going through a lot, but listen.
William asked the expected, "Who are you?" The man replied,
I have no time for that. Your subconscious is still as weak as those who have none of the understanding, but I still must tell you.
William had no clue what this man was getting at, or what anything he had just said actually meant. He listened anyway to what the man had to say.
Your doctor, Dr. Young, he knows of the overcast you speak of. He's heard that before from someone. He must understand.
William felt surprised from what this man was saying. He wondered, how does he know Dr. Young's name? Is this just me? Am I having this neuropsychotrauma, whatever bullshit again? The man's eye flickered with a tiny blue spark and went back to dull grey. The scar. I know that scar. Before William could come to grip with it, the man spoke abruptly.
Our science, William. Your science. The science of your era. It touches so close on what I have seen for many years before you. These molecules, physics, quantum theories that Dr. Young has told me about, even religion, it all touches dangerously close to a true fact. The balance, William, the balance. Ancient texts, modern science, they all touch so very close. But names, William, names get in the way all the time. Confusing, contorting, convulsing, covering the trail. It's like when waves wash over the rock for too long at a beach. Our language just can't hold a meaning for long enough to pass on to distant descendants.
The man was ranting now, spewing random information about very vague subjects to William. As the man released information about structural positioning in ancient times and magnetic hotspots on the planet and the reason we believed in God, it was all so unfocused, like the man had just too much to say in a short amount of time. The last thing William could hear the man say as he felt his conscience leaving was this.
The balance, William. The balance needs to be reset. It has gone unchecked for too long. Now that we can think.
As the man continued to speak, William faded out. He heard a muffle of the man's voice and then... nothing. William woke up in the institution outside Dr. Young's office. He thought to himself, this dreaming is amazing. I just sat down, yet the dream had felt like an eternity. William lingered in the chair for a suspended moment. David came out from Dr. Young's office, looked at William sitting on the chair, and smiled, saying,
Thanks, Mike. Thanks again.
William stood up, shook David's hand, and said, Remember, set all of your fears aside. The overcast will fall far behind you. David squinted his eyes and replied,
You know, Mike, you really are fucking nutty.
They both said their goodbyes, although William felt he would see David again. William headed into Dr. Young's office. Dr. Young quickly got up, saying in a spry tone,
William, for God's sake, it's good to see you're in a good mood, as well as I. Have a seat, son, have a seat.
William asked Dr. Young as he pointed back to David. Is he really... Dr. Young nodded and replied with an excited pound to the desk.
Yes! Ha! Holy shit, yes!
Dr. Young clapped once and then proceeded while pointing at William.
Well, William, that's the second patient that has left in the past 2 days. Of course, David will return in a few days to officially check out, but he left to go take care of some issues, which I'm sure you already know all about, don't you, William?
William felt confused, but excited at the same time. He didn't fully know what was going through the doc's mind. Doc continued to William.
William, I'm going to need your permission to run a test.
William got serious and replied, "Test? What test?" Dr. Young said,
It's just a little test that would prove something amazing. It just requires you to be hooked up to one of our brainwave monitors, you and another patient, that is. Don't worry, the machine only monitors brainwave activity. It's called an EEG, or electroencephalogram. It doesn't hurt at all. William, we will need to put you and the other patient out for a few moments.
William was rushed by unexpectedness. Whoa! What the hell? Why? What did I do now? I agree to take the damn medication, which makes my mouth dry, by the way, and drowsy too. And now you're gonna make a Frankenstein out of me, are you? Dr. Young replied with a more serious face.
Forgive my excitement, William. Here.
Dr. Young pulled a pack of mint gum from his white jacket pocket and handed it to William, saying,
Chew this for a while.
William looked at Dr. Young like he was insane. The momentary pause was broken by Dr. Young's voice when he said,
Oh, yeah, it makes your mouth salivate when you chew on food, so you don't get dry mouth.
William then understood and nodded. He took a piece out and placed it in his mouth to chew as Dr. Young went on.
Now, William, I'm only going to up the dose on your medication for about a month and a half more, just to please the damn corporates. Don't worry, though. I do believe after a few days it won't have much of an effect on someone with your condition.
William cut in. What do you mean, condition? Dr. Young went on.
William, this may be hard to take in, but there's been someone similar to you in this institution before.
William said back, I know, Doc. His name's John. What's with this guy and me anyway? Dr. Young said back,
Well, to put it real simple, he could see into the minds and memories of others, or so he claimed. I couldn't even begin to prove any of that to anyone. My damn job was at stake when I even murmured such a thing to the higher-ups. For so long, I've wondered if I had done right or wrong. For so long, I had forgotten it all entirely. Until now, William. He was from the military a while back. He was on leave, medical leave. He was injured in war. From his records, though, he was about to get dishonorably discharged. Other men around him were complaining to higher officers that he kept going on and on about how there was no enemy and the overcast, and about people around him that were infected and so forth. William, I think John was right. I think there is indeed a connection between that mystery virus and this overcast.
This caught William's attention. He didn't feel so crazy after all. William's vision prior to coming into the office had foreseen this. William felt a lifting feeling of nervousness and excitement. William then verified to himself, this is real. This is real. Oh my God, it's real! Then worry soon burrowed itself right into the relief and deep in William's stomach as he realized that if he wasn't crazy, then something bad was about to happen. There was something a whole lot bigger than himself and Dr. Young's theory, and this John guy. An experience that he and millions of others might endure. Time froze. He blinked and time whirled and screamed. Glimpses of a completely foreign-looking world hurled over and under a dark sky. A world rebuilt and fortified, new power, new leaders, new blood. William could not see the next thing, but rather he felt it. It was a change in the state of mind. A higher conscious? Mutation? Words and visions spun too quickly. William put this this intense vision to an end before he lost himself. Whatever that was, he wasn't ready for it. He brought himself back to the office to focus on what was in front of him, what was more real for certain. William now understood where Dr. Young was headed with this conversation. Now William knew that if in fact this was all true, then he would need to be in contact with John, as he seemed to be the only other person who would really be able to explain it all. William then asked, "But this John, he's catatonic, isn't he?" Dr. Young said,
Yes, William, but his subconscious is through the roof. I'm pretty sure by now that you're familiar with this realm.
It clicked easily in William's head. Dr. Young really believes that I can contact John and bring him back. But what on earth would be inside a catatonic mind? William sucked up his fear and made his decision then and there, just as the day he came here to check in the car where he had his fit. He now felt like all of this observing of faith, observing of life, observing of crime and wrongfulness, dishonor and immoral. Finally, he felt a little like he could just sit back and watch it all go by in order to act on it with a more calm and desensitized point of view. William couldn't help but feel joy for David leaving though. So he asked Dr. Young, "Okay, Doc, I'll do it. But can I talk about some normal stuff first?" Dr. Young said with a smile.
Normal stuff, huh? Yeah, sure, we can do that. What's on your mind?
Okay. First of all, David, what was his story? I mean, how did I help him? Dr. Young replied,
You see, William, David's real problem was running away, leaving. After hearing his stories of his life before VMI, I started seeing the pattern that every time there was a conflict, he'd flee. Somehow, in a good way, you forced it in his head, which inspired him to face a real problem. Then it clicked in his head, and he came and asked me for advice on how to deal with a problem such as a wife who disappeared, but a kid that he wanted to see. And so I told him that he could go see his son, and he went. See, William, David would leave. Once he realized all he had to do was set instinctual childish fears aside, he'd conquer the problem quite swiftly. The further he ran from problems, the closer the walls came in, until he physically ended up behind walls. Luckily not bars. If the other person you're dealing with is constantly irrational, then the problem is not you. It's them. And you can help them, since you're the closest to them. If they are rational, on the other hand, then you will find that there was a simple misunderstanding in the relationship, and that misunderstanding could cause things like miscommunication or slight untruthfulness. Both people in the relationship will quickly understand these small problems if they're both emotionally rational, and they will laugh in the face of the situation, or never have a situation in the first place. It's as simple as that.
William said back, "Wow, I did all that?" Dr. Young laughed, saying,
Yeah, you sure did, William. What else did you want to discuss?
William responded, "Well, I guess I'm just feeling a bit better about everything. My mind seems a bit clearer. I'm excited about the testing and all, but afraid at the same time." Dr. Young asked William,
Why the fear, William? It's perfectly safe. We could prove many astonishing things about the human mind. This has been a delicate and highly stressful conversation and case for VMI as a company, let alone just little old me as a doctor. You see, William, VMI is a little more advanced in the art of the mental institution, if you haven't already noticed. They are breaking through mental science daily, founded by a true genius with an honest interest and curiosity in the mind. The way they've handled John's case, and me for that matter, was breathtakingly refreshing. They were willing to entertain the whole idea. I mean, that says a lot. Trust me, William. Now is an opportunity for something far larger than any philosopher or scientist has ever dreamed, William. That is why I want to administer this test.
William stopped chewing and responded, "I realize that, Doc, but What if it keeps me from leaving this damn place? Those prison riots aren't just in prisons anymore, Doc. I've been hearing that riots are breaking out everywhere else, and I haven't a damn clue on how anyone or anything is doing. I can't tell at all. And this place, it clouds my mind. It's like there's a presence focusing energy upon me. I've been so damn caught up in here that I haven't even called any friends or anyone at all. Dr. Young thought and replied,
I realize this, William. Don't worry. Things will be fine. I'm sure the world is perfectly safe. William, whether the testing goes good or bad, you will be able to leave. I promise. Just keep taking the medication, go along with everything smoothly, and you're out of here, kiddo.
William felt better. He still knew that Dr. Young hadn't fully grasped the weight of the situation. The consequence to the entire theory being true would indeed mean that things were going to change. The riots were making him uneasy. He saw a couple on TV. The people on the news footage had the virus and just burst through the streets and broke into stores while trampling bystanders. William couldn't bear the thought of this happening to the innocent, which is why he must finish his duty here at Vista and then leave. Dr. Young, on the other hand, had his own stresses about the patients being held upstairs in that large room with nothing in it except 2 guards, every patient on the 2nd floor, and the virus festering within every patient upstairs, except for one. John. Dr. Young then cut the silence.
Well, William, it was good talking again. Remember, I'm upping your dose. I'll keep checking on you week after week. Your appointment for this test will be... let's see.
William waited as Dr. Young touched a button on his phone and said,
Nancy?
On the other end, Nancy's annoying voice shattered the air.
Yes, Dr. Young?
Dr. Young responded,
Can you give me a date for William and John's testing?
Nancy's voice came through after a brief moment of silence.
Looks like November 11th, 2011, of course.
Dr. Young looked at William for confirmation. William just smiled and nodded, even though every day he had to be in here agonized him with urgency to see his family. He couldn't believe he had only been here for around a month now, give or take. He then thought to himself, I can't really even remember. It's not like I've been counting. It was September when he checked in, and now it's only late October. Dr. Young finished up his confirmation with Nancy and then turned to William and stood up with an extended hand saying,
Well, William, I'll see you next week.
William shook Doc's hand firmly and said, Yeah, next week. I'm gonna go get something to eat now. Have a good one, all right, Doc?
You too, William. You too.
William left and closed the door behind him with a sigh. Once again, William had too much on his mind.